Do you ever consider that perhaps our lives are controlled by some greater being, or a force that's just outside our ability to comprehend? Does humanity constantly struggle because we are puppets to a larger scheme? Are human wars and conflicts governed by a power we simply cannot understand? Konami's Suikoden II, released for the Sony PlayStation between 1998 and 2000 across all territories, attempts to explore these themes. Penned by Yoshitaka Murayama, the game promises to deliver a plot that will have you on the edge of your seat. We begin the game as Riou, a member of a youth league division of a national army camped out on the nation's border due to an ongoing war with a neighbouring nation. However, a peace treaty has finally been signed, and tomorrow Riou will be able to return home. Even though he's excited about the thought of seeing his sister Nanami, he cannot locate the bosom of slumber, so decides to go for a short stroll outside. His childhood friend Joey joins him. During their walk, they notice that there's an unease in the air, amidst the excitement of youth who just want to return to their families. Whilst walking near the edge of a nearby forest, they notice a shadowy figure scurry away, but think nothing of it as it's not possible for an enemy attack to be fronted from that direction. It was probably just someone playing a prank. Retiring to their tent, they finally manage to get some shut-eye. The sound of steel upon blade and screams of pain abruptly awaken the boys from their slumber as their tent blazes around them. With no time to change into combat fatigues, they escape their burning shelter, stumbling upon their captain outside who tells them that the peace treaty has been broken and urges them to run into the forest. On the way there, they find other members of the youth brigade desperate and injured. No one wants to die here. Those that can still walk are lending a hand, making for the forest where they can escape to safety. At the edge of the tree line, Joey hesitates, cautioning that this may be an enemy ambush. Deciding to head back to inform their captain, they find that the injured youths from before are now dead, struck down where they stood. Arriving back at the camp, the pair stumble upon a conspiracy which determines their future. Not wanting to die here like the other unfortunate members of the Unicorn Brigade, the pair escape to a nearby cliff. Here they make a promise to each other, setting blade to stone to bind their oath. Cornered and desperate, the only option of escape, a death-defying leap into the raging rapids below, the friends grasp hands and jump, falling into the cold, churning waters far beneath. What I enjoyed about Suikoden II was that it never held back its punches. The plot is set into motion within the first 5 minutes of gameplay, and this sets the stage for the rest of the game. Whilst Riou and Joey both survive the fall, and are eventually reunited, things are not the same. They are now in enemy territory, as well as branded as traitors in their homeland, and despite their struggles to return their life to how it used to be. Events of a national scale shift and fray the fabric of their fate, inevitably causing them to both tread different paths that don't always see eye to eye. Doggedly, Riou's fate pursues him until the end of the game. It's a journey full of tragedy, despair, and the occasional warm smile from those that want him to stay his course. Following suit from the previous title, Riou will obtain a true rune during his adventure. Where Suikoden's Rune of Punishment granted the power to destroy at the cost of those dearest to Tia McDowell, Riou inherits the Bright Shield rune, which is only one half of a true rune. The Bright Shield rune grants the power to protect and heal its allies, however it is constantly at war with its counterpart, the Black Sword rune, whom Joey inherits. Once more the burdened mantle of divine beings are placed upon the shoulders of youth, forever changing the annals of history. Suikoden II is a longer game than the original title, full of twists and turns that are bound to give you as much enjoyment as watching an episode of Game of Thrones. If anything, Murayama-san is an expert at crafting a political narrative, and this one is bound to hit you in the feels, whether it's from revulsion, panic, or sadness. Balanced with the lows are a peppering of highs to cement the adventure in the heart of the player. This game is regarded as one of the best among many dedicated JRPG fans, and it's not difficult to see why. The main drawcard of Suikoden II is that, like in the first game, there are 108 characters to recruit to your cause over the course of the adventure, who will all reside in a base that you acquire as part of Riou's journey. As you recruit more of the 108 Stars of Destiny, the base will swell in population, developing and growing, and unlike the first title, Suikoden II also has NPC refugees of war who will come to inhabit your castle town, so it feels more alive. For me, this enriched my experience tenfold, as you could talk to them and hear their worries, or see the carefree nature of some of the children who were able to escape the atrocities of the war tearing apart many other villages and cities. Riou and his companions will travel all over the combined nations of the City-State Alliance, who present a united front on the outside, whilst hiding an underlying jealousy and hatred for each other that slowly smoulders and festers beneath the fronted facade. During the adventure, it will be up to Riou and his companions to unite all the city-states against the looming threat of Look of Blight and the Highland Army that threatens to burn everything to ashes. To stand a chance, Riou must recruit others to his cause from all walks of life to assist him in battle, provide services in his base, and lend strength to his army units in large-scale wars. The diversity in characters is a real standout feature for me. On one hand, you have the typical warriors and mages, but then there's also flying squirrels, a unicorn, and a barrel that can turn into a battle robot. You won't be disappointed by the variety, and among the 108 characters there's bound to be those that you identify with. Whilst the adventure is mostly about stopping the invading Highland Army, I did want to take a moment to mention the antagonist, Look of Blight. As a villain, he is brilliant, and he has a few particularly revolting scenes that stand out and cement his character. However, despite this, his motivations are hidden behind a translation that is often vague, as well as external supplementary material, so it's never explained concretely in the game why he's on his conquest. The translation issue persists across the game, not only in errors with grammar and spelling, but also incorrectly identifying who is speaking. For example, in one part of the game you are with a Knight of Matilda, watching refugees from Meuse being slaughtered by the Highland Army at the Matilda Kingdom's border. However, the text boxes are incorrectly attributed, swapping the roles of the people speaking. The refugees who are being cut down say, "No, it's too late, they'll all be killed," which should have been attributed to Miklatov, who wants to rescue them. It's a shame that this happened, because it breaks the immersion of scenes that are extremely well written and emotionally charged. Suikoden II's English localizer Jeremy Blaustein has been quoted as saying that he received the script in a form that didn't use any means of identifying who was speaking each line, which is why the localization ended up the way it did. But it feels to me like some of the errors couldn't possibly be blamed on just this. Maybe there was a time crunch, and Q&A didn't exist back then as it does now either. It is a shame because whilst many people laud this game as being perfect, it does have its flaws that some people choose not to mention or refuse to acknowledge. Another issue that's present in the Western NTSC version of the game is that some scenes don't play music. Some of the war battles completely omit the music, and when you are recruiting Annalie, though her mouth is moving, no sound comes out, so you are just standing there wondering if the game has frozen. Surprisingly, these issues are not present in the PAL release of the game, which makes me think they caught and fixed them after the game shipped to NTSC territories. One thing I appreciated over the previous title is that your characters have a shared inventory to store unneeded items. Whilst characters now only have 3 inventory slots as opposed to 10, if you choose to have them hold medicine, if they run out in battle, they can take a turn to draw something else from the shared inventory. Additionally, each character now has 3 rune slots, making them more flexible in terms of ability customization. You can also run on the field without needing to equip a holy rune, which was a great relief and made travel much easier to deal with. Whilst travelling through the hostile territories of the city-states, random encounters will draw you into combat. These turn-based battles consist of 6 party members in 2 rows, as per the previous title. When issuing commands to characters, they will attack simultaneously if they target different enemies. The camera swings around dynamically as the action occurs, zooming in to highlight a character when they are going to perform a critical hit. Sometimes if a character has a high speed stat, they can even attack multiple enemies in the same turn. Rune magic also makes a return, appearing even more impressive than in Suikoden, and unite attacks are always a pleasure to discover, though many of them come at the cost of causing one or all participants to become unbalanced, losing their next turn. When a battle ends, characters will gain experience relative to the level of the enemy, meaning that you can take a weak character into battle and have them quickly gain levels without becoming a burden on the party. In addition to normal battles, there are duels, which set Riou in a one-on-one battle against an opponent in a rock, scissors, paper-like game. Be careful to read the opponent's dialogue carefully so that you can guess how best to proceed. Army battles also make a return with a complete overhaul in favour of a grid-based strategy game, though it is to be noted that whilst there is some strategy involved, a lot of it is to do with luck. Even if you have a stronger attack and higher defense, you may still find your unit taking damage. It appears that attack and defense only increase your chance to land a hit, or avoid one. In one of my battles, Ida's unit, who had a relatively low attack, was able to take out units that had a high defense by sheer fortune. When the thralls of battles have tired you out, you can relax in your home base where there are many activities to take part in. Not only can you take a load off in a hot bath with your comrades, but you can also play a variety of minigames that can benefit your party by providing equipment and items that will make the adventure easier. Your base also houses all the services found in a normal town, if you have recruited the pertaining character, so it's easy to outfit your army on the go. You can even change the equipment and runes of characters who aren't in your active party at the stores in your base, which made managing the large cast of characters more feasible. And who can speak about this game without mentioning the best side quest in any game ever? That's right, I'm talking the cooking contest. I don't think I've ever played anything quite like it, and found that I had a huge smile on my face whenever I returned to it. The graphic fidelity of Suikoden II certainly trumps its predecessor in many ways. The character sprites are so detailed and have unique animations that breathe life into the scenes in a way that the first game was never able to achieve. For instance, there are some rather large sprites that I wouldn't have expected to see, like the horse-drawn carriage in Kyoto, or the large animal recruits. In battle, the rune spell visual effects have all been overhauled and look incredibly imposing. In fact, the spell effects are some of my favourite from any of the PlayStation era of games. They are always just so pleasing to watch. Character portraits have also received an upgrade and look far more detailed than the original title. The added cutscenes were also a nice way to display some of the more imposing moments of the game, instilling a sense of dread. Whilst the first game did have a great score, Miki Higashino outdoes herself with the arrangements created for Suikoden II. The East Asian flair is retained in many of the themes, whilst the European-looking settlements have Western flavour. I loved the blend of East meets West. There are many tracks that I love in this game, but one of the standouts for me would be the first theme that plays in the headquarters. The underlying melody, if you listen closely, is actually the melody of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which was thematically appropriate and quite clever. All the battle themes also put you in a mood, especially the unique boss ones. It's just a shame that those themes are only heard the one time, when you are battling them. Thank God for YouTube. Suikoden II is one of those games that is considered a classic by many, and rightly so. The number of improvements made over the previous game is certainly enough to crown it, however we must also not avoid considering its localization flaws. The politically charged narrative has the player constantly questioning just what's going on, and has you wanting to invest just one more hour before you put the controller down for the day. The diverse cast of characters means that there's bound to be someone you identify with, that you want to take on your adventures to every corner of the City-State Alliance. If you have never played this game, then I'd urge you to go out and find it, put it in your console, and play it now. Do it! By the way, with such a large cast of characters, I'd be interested to know who your favourite is. I find that every time I play this game, I change my party around to try a different combination. I really liked using Millie this time around. Let me know who your favourites are in the comments. This has been Venoir with a review of Suikoden II for the Sony PlayStation. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, subscribe and comment, as it helps me out a bunch. As always, thanks again, and I hope to see you all again next time. Bye bye for now.